Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome once again to stately Vaughan Manor, where Roger and I have returned for my weekly reading report. It's time for the weekly reading report, where I talk about all the stuff that I read last week. It's all the stuff I read last week, Roger. Hopefully, I'll be able to put this weekly reading report back on a regular schedule on Monday. It's been kind of moving around. Things have been crazy around here. So let's talk about the stuff I read. But before that, I have to give the results for the winner of the Wasted Weekend. So the Wasted Weekend is coming up on the 15th and 16th of this month. It is a reading event created by the great CriminOlly, who also created Grammaticus, the greatest reading event of all time. And the Wasted Weekend is a weekend where you read a trashy book. And I did a video asking you to vote on the trashy book I would read on the Wasted Weekend, and there is a clear winner. I was a bit surprised by the results, Roger. I felt sure that Robert E. Howard's Spicy Adventures would win, and it got a respectable number of votes. It came in second, I think. Did it come in second? Let me look at the votes here. Yes, Spicy Adventures came in second. What came in third? Flashing Swords, it looks like, came in third. But number one, and the winner for the Wasted Weekend is the Human Termites. It's the Human Termites. I mean, look at that. Of course it won. How could you not want to read a book called The Human Termites? So they planned the massacre of mankind. So yes, this will be my Wasted Weekend, which won't be wasted at all because I'll be reading this awesome book. This is a double, by the way. We also have this less exciting book in the back, The Ambassador from Mars by Harl Vincent. So I'll read this as well since it's in the same book. But the real book you want to read, of course, is The Human Termites by David H. Keller, MD. David H. Keller, MD. You know, also known by his supervillain name, Dr. Termite. So we're reading Dr. Termites, The Human Termites, on the Wasted Weekend. So yeah, this is going to be fun. That was the winner. So I'm going to read that. But now we're going to get to what I read. And I'm breaking out my list of the 500 books I'm reading for the 500 book challenge. The challenge where I have to read 500 books that I own before I will purchase any new books for myself. And it's been a long road. So book number 214. We're not even halfway through the 500 book challenge, and we've been doing it forever. Can you believe it, Roger? It just keeps going on and on. Book 214 was Night of Shadows. Night of Shadows in the Great Book of Amber. So it was Ambuary last month, a reading event dedicated to reading Roger Zelazny, which was really put together by Grammaticus. I came up with Ambuary last year because I intended to read all 10 books of Amber last January, and of course I didn't do it because I'm slow. But I read 8 books, and for this Ambuary, I read Night of Shadows, book 9, which continues the adventures of Merlin. This is the Merlin cycle that I'm reading now. And it was a lot of fun. As far as the Amber books go, this was towards the lower end of the Amber books. It was not one of the best Amber books. There was a lot of wandering around in this book. As you know, it happens in fantasy novels. You know, there's always a lot of wandering about in fantasy novels, and there was a lot of that going on in this book. But that was okay, because even though it was at the lower tier of Amber novels, it was still great. I still loved it. I loved reading it. It was so fun to get back into this world, Roger Zelazny's world of Amber, and he's always entertaining. I have not read a Zelazny book yet that I haven't been entertained by. And It was awesome. So I enjoyed it. I only have one book left. I've been kind of, I didn't read any Amber books since last February, I think. I was still reading Amber maybe last February. But I haven't read any books in the Amber series since then just because I only had a couple left. And I was like, I kept putting it off because once I read those, it's over, right? My first read of these is done. And so I only have one Amber book left and then it's over. So I'm going to put it off until next Ambuary. And then I'll read the last book, which is Prince of Chaos. And then it's done. Then there's no more Amber. That will suck. Oh well. And I know that there was a couple like novels written, couple Amber books written by somebody else, but Roger Zelazny made a point of saying when he was alive that he did not want anybody else to write Amber books, that only he would write the Amber books. So any other Amber books that have been written, I'm not going to read them because he didn't want anybody else to write Amber stories except for himself. So there you go. Only one left. So I read that and it was great. It was great. I don't exactly know where it's going. A lot of secrets have been revealed. We know who has been trying to kill Merlin now. We know who the main villain seems to be. It looks like. So where is it going? I don't know. We'll find out at the end after the last book. So there is that. And next, I read Doc Savage. Doc Savage, The Land of Terror. The Land of Terror. So this is the second Doc Savage novel that was published in the Doc Savage magazine back in the 30s. This was published in April of 1933. April of 1933, this was published. Like I said, the second Doc Savage story, although in this series of paperback books, they numbered it number 8 for some reason. They didn't go in the order that they were published originally. Who knows why, but they didn't. But it's actually the second Doc Savage adventure. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. They go to a lost world, Doc Savage and his companions. It takes a while to get there. There's a lot of adventure stuff going on in this book. But they don't actually get to the Land of Terror until the last third of the book. Once they get there. Once they get there, though, I can speak. Once they get there, it's worth it, man. It's awesome. The last third of this book is fantastic. And it was entertaining up to that point. I was surprised how bloodthirsty Doc Savage was in this early adventure, though. I mean, he was just killing guys right and left. I mean, yeah. The bad guys in this book, I mean, he's like the spider in this one. He ruthlessly slaughters people. And that kind of surprised me. But maybe Doc Savage was just more that way when he started his career. So yeah, that was interesting. But the action was relentless in this book. Perfect pulp pacing in this book. It was great. So I highly recommend this Doc Savage adventure if you ever see it lying around a bookstore somewhere. You should pick it up. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. So I'm reading a Doc Savage novel every month in the order that they came out. And this was an excellent one, just as good as The Man of Bronze, which I read last month. In some ways, as far as pacing is concerned, it was even better. But yeah, The Land of Terror, Doc Savage and dinosaurs. Doc Savage and dinosaurs. So you can't miss with that. Also, giant beavers. They were attacked by giant beavers. And Doc Savage, towards the end, dresses up and disguises himself as a giant skunk to scare a Tyrannosaurus Rex away. I'm not kidding. That actually happens in this book. It's amazing. You want to read it now, don't you? Just because of that. Why wouldn't you? So there's that. I read that. And that was book number 215 in the 500 book challenge. Those are the only 2 things I finished for the challenge. The next book I'm going to read, and if you saw yesterday's video on Roger's Cheap Old Book Club, if you've seen yesterday's video, you know that the next thing I'm going to be reading starting today is The Spy by James Fenimore Cooper. The Spy, which is a novel of the American Revolutionary War by the author of the Deerstalker tales, which included The Last of the Mohicans and The Deerslayer. So he wrote other books, and he wrote this one, The Spy. I saw a video from Steve Donoghue yesterday where Steve Donoghue says this book isn't very good. But he said that about a lot of books that I like, so I'm going to keep an open mind reading The Spy. And of course, it is part of Roger's Cheap Old Book Club. It's available for free on Project Gutenberg if you want to join us in the reading of The Spy for this month. Yeah, it should be fun. I've had this book literally on my bookshelf forever. I don't even remember where I got it. I might have bought this book years ago. I might have inherited it this might have been stolen from my mom. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where I got it. It's been hanging out for so long and I haven't read it. So now I'm going to read it. It's awesome. It's 100 years old. And it's got cool old illustrations in it. Let's see. Of course, now that I'm looking for one, I won't find it. Here's one. Yeah, it's got cool old illustrations in it. It looks awesome. So, yeah, The Spy. I'm going to be reading that starting today. I've also been reading some comic book stuff. The Fantastic Four. I'm reading every issue of the Fantastic Four from the first run of the Fantastic Four, which ran from the early 1960s until 1996, when it was canceled because of the whole Heroes Reborn nonsense, and then brought back immediately with a new #1 issue. But I'm reading the first run, and I'm over 200 issues in right now. There are no epic collections that collect the stories that I'm reading at the moment. Not yet, anyway. There's one that's going to be published soon. But since I don't have those, I'm reading them all on the tablet in the Marvel Masterworks editions that I have. And right now, I'm at King Size Annual number 13 from 1978. And I'll just read them this way. Which isn't it looks like the next one is going to be illustrated by Sal Buscema. So this isn't the best way to read a comic book on a tablet, in my opinion, but, it's better than nothing, and it's the only way I could read these stories at the moment. So I have a bunch of Fantastic Four, because there's a big gap in the epic collections. So I have a bunch of Fantastic Four to read electronically, including this one. And I'm over 200 issues, but I'm not quite halfway through the series. Not quite halfway through. So I'm going to have to pick up the pace on Fantastic Four. I've been kind of reading one every day, which isn't enough. That isn't enough, because there were over 400 issues. I think there were 412 or something. I have to look it up in this first run. But I'm also reading the annuals on top of that. So King Size Annual number 13, 1978. Going to be reading this today. And everything else has been kind of pushed aside. Since Varney's Fantastic Wedding last weekend, I haven't read any Varney. I've taken a break on Varney. So I've got to pick that up again tomorrow. I'm going to start reading Varney again tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll never, ever finish Varney. The story does seem to be picking up, so that's good. I'm also way behind on the Justice League. I'm reading all of the Silver Age Justice League. And I'm only at issue 7, where we have our Justice League characters looking in the funhouse mirror. So, that's interesting. And they've all really changed into what they look like in the funhouse mirror, much to Aquaman's horror. So yeah, Justice League number 7, and it's fantastic. This is great. So I'm going to read some of this today, and I got to catch up, man. Get farther along in this, because these are great old Gardner Fox stories from the Justice League. They're awesome. I've just been so busy, and I have had too much on my plate to read that I haven't been able to keep up. But that's pretty much normal for me. Pretty much normal. I think that's everything. You got anything to add, Roger? Roger has nothing to add. Oddly. Okay. I guess that's everything. I will catch you next time.